We're actually doing something fun today, ladies and gentlemen of the translation interpreting jury. We're going to do some real live interpreting. And just like in real life, it's all spontaneous, it's all unexpected. I just found out about 42.5 minutes ago that I'll be interpreting about something called Arabella. And the only mention of Arabella I've heard was the name of a goat in Outlander yesterday. This is not the name of a goat, this is an ultrasound device. This happens all the time, so it's actually very real. Let me describe to you what we're going to do, and then I'll do interpreting for you. And if I don't get at least a B+ on this unexpected job, please never visit my channel again, because you have to practice what you preach, and I believe very much in listening to competent people. Anyway, so I call up my friend Leo. You'll get to meet him in just a second. He's actually a publisher, and I say, let's do an interpretation job about publishing. And he says, how about let's do it about a medical ultrasound device called Arabella? I say, okay, because you always have to be ready, right? In the Soviet Union, there was this caste, this group called the Young Pioneers, sort of like the Boy Scouts in America, and the slogan, the motto was, always be ready, always ready. So an interpreter is always ready. A runner always runs, an interpreter always interprets. So what did I do? Because we talked yesterday about preparation, right? I had maybe 15 minutes to prepare. I went to their site, I found out it's about ultrasound, and I'm scanning, like laser scanning for terminology. I found out a few terms. I checked quickly the term, Russian English term for bed sores, which apparently are also pressure ulcers or bed ulcers. You're gonna see me meet Leo. I will pretend like I do not know him, and I might ask him for any other technical terms. But what I also found out is that this is for an audience of elderly people, and some of them might be non-native speakers, Chinese, Hispanics. So tone down the register, right? Big difference. Am I interpreting for doctors and nurses and medical staff, or am I interpreting for quote-unquote normal people? I think that's about it, and we'll roll with interpreting the next clip. The introduction is important not just out of courtesy and decorum, but you'll see what I do. Леня, здравствуйте.
Добрый день, Владимир. Очень рад вас видеть.
Да, я буду вам сегодня переводить.
Спасибо, я буду очень рад.
Я узнал о задании очень спонтанно, буквально там час назад. Я чуть-чуть посмотрел, но первый вопрос. Кто наша аудитория? Это врачи, это обычные люди?
Ну, я бы хотел, наша аудитория – это обычные люди, и, в принципе, не имеет значения национальность или откуда они приехали и так далее, потому что это общее для всех, кого это будет интересовать. А я уверен, что это будет очень многих, практически всех интересовать.
Понял. Я чуть-чуть подготовился, но какую-то мне нужно знать, сленг, терминологию, или вы будете говорить достаточно?
Я буду говорить общими словами, потому что, учитывая тот факт, что очень многие не понимают всех медицинских терминов, которые нужны. Поэтому я буду общими словами, которые понятны практически всем.
Какой там был термин? Не калибрация? Вы мне...
Кавитация.
Кавитация, окей, хорошо. Закон всемирной кавитации, шучу. И последнее, смотрите, вас когда-нибудь переводили или нет?
Нет, это первый мой опыт тоже.
Смотрите, часто люди, когда работают с горе-переводчиками, они думают, что нужно говорить очень коротко, потому что у людей плохая память. У меня отличная память, поэтому мне проще, если вы говорите подольше, но не так долго, чтобы аудитории было скучно. Но разберемся. Если что, я вас остановлю. Хорошо?
Окей. Да, у меня есть маленький опыт, поэтому я постараюсь, чтобы было всем интересно тоже.
Хорошо. Мы готовы тогда?
Да, мы готовы.
Отлично.
Мы можем начать.
Okay, guys, what I did here real quick, I'm just gonna explain to interpreters. You'll have the subtitles by, I introduced myself to Leo. I said that the job was spontaneous. I asked who the audience is. This is really important, because are we interpreting to doctors or are we interpreting to normal people? And I found out that we're interpreting to quote-unquote normal people, right? And they might even be non-English speakers. So I'm gonna tone down the register. I asked Leo for any medical terminology. He said he's not going to be using a whole lot, and I also told him that if possible to use not the shortest possible segments, not the longest possible segments, and I think that we can start, right?
Окей. Добрый день всем. Я хочу сначала представиться. Меня зовут Леонид. У меня есть медицинское образование, правда, в Советском Союзе, поэтому меня очень заинтересовало одно изобретение, который у нас, я лично сам горжусь, потому что это изобретение у нас в штате Миннесота. И кратко я бы хотел бы рассказать, как это было.
Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Leo. I'm actually medically trained, although my training took place back in the Soviet Union. And I would like to talk to you about an invention I'm super proud of. It's a medical invention that happened and was brought about here in the state of Minnesota. And let me tell you the story here.
8 лет назад мне стало известно, что у нас в Миннесоте есть ученый, который изобретатель. И этот изобретатель изобрел один из очень уникальных медицинских приборов, который дает большую пользу людям и, самое главное, спасает жизнь людям. Мне это было очень-очень интересно, поэтому я всеми силами нашел путь, как с ним познакомиться. Его зовут Ильяс Бабаев, он сам уроженец Азербайджана. Это просто гениальный, не только просто ученый гениальный, но он просто всемирно известный ученый, который имеет на своем счету 104 изобретения, который имеет на своем счету 16 статей, профессор, кандидат кандидат технических наук, закончил Бауманское училище. Это его краткая характеристика. Что особенно интересно и очень важно отметить, что он приехал сюда по специальной, так называемой, по-английски это gifted visa, это специально, именно его пригласили, потому что это всемирно известный ученый.
All right, so let me tell you a little bit about how this came about. 8 years ago, I found out that there is a scientist and an inventor. His name is actually Elias Babayev. He comes and has his roots in Azerbaijan. And this is an incredible man. When I found out about him and his invention, I was completely thrilled to meet this guy, and I found out a way that I could meet him. And in fact, to tell you a little bit about him, he has 101 patented inventions. He has 16 articles in various professional magazines. He is a professor and a candidate of sciences in biomedicine, and his training was at Bauman College. He's an incredible person. I was thrilled because this invention can help many people, and it literally saves lives.
Когда я встретил его, это абсолютно, он очень простым языком стал со мной объясняться, и он мне объяснил, что принцип его изобретения, как бы, с одной стороны, очень прост, а с другой стороны, это абсолютно уникальное открытие этого ученого. В 2 словах я вам скажу, чтобы вы просто поняли. Как вы...
He came here actually on a talent visa, and when I met him, he was able to explain to me in very simple terms about his device. And the device is completely brilliant, but simple. Let me right now explain it to you in layman terms, and you'll see.
Значит, гениальность его изобретения заключается в том, что он нашел путь, как сделать соединение ультразвуковой волны, которая абсолютно имеет другую плотность, чем любая жидкость, с жидкостью, и при этом образуется эффект так называемой резонансной кавитации, то, что он делает следующие очень важные вещи в медицине.
The effect basically that he came up with or that he discovered is called resonance cavitation, and this effect is brought about when the ultrasound wave is combined with liquids, and these two have completely different densities, but when they come together you get the resonance cavitation effect, and they bring about completely brilliant things in medicine and health, which I'll tell you about.
Что это значит? Ультразвуковая волна с частотой 35 тысяч колебаний в секунду смешивается с водой и образует так называемые пузырьки. И что эти пузырьки делают? Они делают 3 вещи на любой ране, на любом повреждении кожи, начиная от царапины и кончая до гангрены или ампутации ноги. Делает она следующие вещи. Первое. Останавливает боль. Если вы знаете, любая если автоавария или если повреждение, пулевое повреждение, то человек может даже умереть от так называемого шоковой боли. Это когда боль становится такой невыносимой, что человек теряет сознание. Так вот, одно из преимуществ этого прибора – это то, что он первым делом снимает боль, то есть нейтрализует нейроны, которые вокруг раны, и это как бы делает типа тот же эффект, как делает новокаин.
So, let me tell you a little bit about how the device works. It actually sends an ultrasound wave that oscillates at 35,000 oscillations per second, and it goes into water and it creates bubbles. And it has three main effects, and these effects are actually valid, or they work on all types of abrasions and wounds, from little cuts to gangrenes and so forth. As you know, if a person has, for example, a bullet wound, or if maybe they were in an accident or something like that, they can actually die from the shock of pain. And the first thing that it does, like any painkiller would, like Novocaine and so forth, it neutralizes pains by working on the neurons.
Вторая функция этого прибора – это то, что оно немедленно останавливает кровь. Принцип такой, что когда ультразвуковая волна вместе с жидкостью образует, я забыл как спрей по-русски.
Yeah, the second principle is that it stops the bleeding right away, and when the ultrasound waves comes together with liquids, it forms a spray of sorts.
Да, как распыляет. И вот это распыление, оно коагулирует кровь, то есть сразу же делает коагуляцию крови, то есть когда вы знаете, что если кровь истекает из раны или бьет фонтаном, то только остановить можно тогда, когда у человека есть сильная свертываемость крови. И вот эта свертываемость крови или коагуляция крови, она мгновенно восстанавливает. То есть поэтому человек после этого ранения или после вот этого повреждения кожи или всего тела, он может просто, кровь перестает, как говорится, перестает истекать кровью.
So like I said, it stops the bleeding. What happens when a person bleeds is there's a certain dissipation effect. But what you need, obviously, to stop bleeding, especially if somebody is gushing blood or if it's splattering out like a fountain, is you need coagulation, right? If blood coagulates, then the bleeding stops. And it doesn't matter if it's just a cut that is local or if it's all over the body. But when you achieve this effect, then that helps the person, and that device definitely achieves the effect.
И третий, один из самых главных эффектов изобретения заключается в том, что благодаря этому прибору происходит полное дезинфицирование раны, полностью ее очищение от мертвых клеток или от различных загрязнений. И заживляющий эффект возрастает в 10, иногда и в 50 раз быстрее, чем все любые методы лечения ран.
And the third effect, one of the most vital effects, is that the wound gets cleansed. What happens is there is a debridement effect, which means cleansing the wound, and it cleanses that wound out of dead cells or various debris and so forth. And what happens is that that effect takes place 10 to 50 times faster than by using any other known means to date.
Я бы мог бы рассказать еще более чем 20 побочных других очень важных эффектов, но я не хочу затягивать времени, и эти эффекты больше, они важны для медицинского персонала, а не для нашей аудитории. Поэтому для нашей аудитории важно вот эти три понять. И самое главное, теперь я когда узнал об этом, так как еще имея медицинский опыт, я был просто поражен, и я спросил первый вопрос, где это применяется или это одобрено FDA. Ответ был такой, значит, это абсолютно FDA одобрен прибор, и применяется он в самых лучших и самых знаменитых клиник и госпиталях Соединенных Штатов Америки и в 16 странах, международных 16 странах. Я могу просто перечислить, это как Мэйо Клиник, это госпиталь ветеранов, госпиталь Риджин, больница Риджин, больница и Хопкинс больница. Ну, в общем, в каждом городе, практически в самых главных больницах, есть этот прибор, который спасает жизнь людей. Моим следующим вопросом и самым главным я спросил, доктор Бабаев, скажите мне, а применяется ли этот прибор для лечения простых людей, которые ходят в клинику, которые не в госпитале, не в больницах, а именно в клинике? Он сказал нет.
I could talk at great length about different quote-unquote positive side effects that this device brings about. In fact, there are more than 20, but these are probably of more interest to actually medical staff and not to our audience today. But being medically trained myself, like I said, I was completely dumbfounded in a good way, and I asked, is this device being used? And in fact, it is being used in cities all across the United States and in 16 countries. I'll just list out some of the hospitals: Mayo Clinic, which you've probably heard about, and Regents Hospital, and Veterans Hospital, and Hopkins Medical Center. And then I asked the inventor one more question. I said, Dr. Babayev, okay, I understand that it's used in various establishments and that it's FDA approved and so forth, but is it used by regular people who just go to clinics? And he said, no.
То лечение пожилых людей, которые страдают пролежнями, диабетическими язвами, а также самая очень такая коварнейшая болезнь – это остеомиелиты, то есть это воспаление костей, которые практически приводят к ампутации конечностей, особенно тех, кто страдает диабетом. У меня есть перечень, я могу потом, если Владимир позволит мне дать перечень всех заболеваний или тех, которые могут помочь. Я бы с удовольствием сказал, и я бы очень был бы рад, чтобы вы обращались, потому что такая помощь есть. Это абсолютно, она подвергается всем оплатой всех медицинских компаний в Соединенных Штатах Америки.
You know, it might be elderly people or just any kinds of people that have ulcers or bed sores or burns or anything like that, and we formed a company. We call this company Mel Health. We also call it the Live Medical Clinic in Russian, and it's especially useful for people suffering from different acute conditions, from diabetic ulcers, from bed sores, from osteomyelitis, which is actually the inflammation of bones and can even lead to amputations, and so forth. And these devices are available. I can provide you with the full list of different medical conditions that they help. They are absolutely covered, and they help many people, the elderly and so forth, and they save lives.
Поэтому особое внимание я бы хотел обратить именно пожилым людям, которые находятся в домах престарелых. В домах престарелых или в специальных реабилитационных центрах. Почему? Потому что очень важно, когда человек лежит, долгое время лежит без движения или мало движением, то происходит застой крови, происходит так называемые пролежни. Или очень большое сильное раздражение кожи, покраснение, шелушение и образование язв от маленьких до больших. И поэтому очень важно применять это Arabella девайс, устройство, которое именно, так как благодаря его воздействию происходит большое приближение кислорода к клеткам, и процесс заживления или оздоровления происходит намного быстрее.
And especially this is super important for people who are in nursing homes or similar establishments, because they are leading very sedentary lifestyles, and what happens is that the blood stagnates, and when that happens they can get all sorts of conditions, bed sores, ulcers, big and small, flaky skin, redness, irritation of the skin, and so forth. And it is very important to help those conditions and to oxygenate the cells, and this is what device does, the Arabella device that I have been talking about.
Спасибо большое за внимание. Владимир, я вас очень благодарю за такую предоставленную возможность. Спасибо большое.
Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to our interpreter, Vladimir. Thank you very much. Alright, so let's recapitulate, and I'm going to give you guys my feedback on how I felt as an interpreter, but first we're going to ask our speaker and our English-speaking audience. Leo, would you come into the shot? One really quick comment: it is very often and natural that speakers do speak English, and Leo actually speaks quite fluent conversational English, but they will choose to speak in their native language, either because there is for example, a Russian-speaking audience, or just because it's more comfortable. So, did I convey your thoughts? Did I convey your message?
Yes, I'll try in English.
Okay.
So, first of all, I want to tell you, My knowledge in English and Vladimir, it's like sky and ground. So, but I would like to mention what I noticed. First of all, I'm impressed about his memory. It's just, it's amazing.
I was note-taking.
Number one. Number two, I noticed that because I was really stressed, I have felt my stress, and even he did interpretation, translation, even better than what I say. So, for example, I remember that I tried to say something and I forgot this word, and I skip it. So for Russian, it was unusual. But Vladimir catches this, and he just like nothing happened. And this was really amazing, because this means when he's doing his business or his job, it's very important for English audience that in case to not lose core of speaker. And this was amazing. I really appreciate this, because you like save my speech, because in this case it was like, oh, it's confused or something. Oh, what he said, and you did a great job. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything I could have done better? Anything that I missed, or you can also tell me honestly what I could have done better?
No, I think you can be better, but because I was thinking that to make as more as possible pause. But you don't need this. I can talk like 10-20 minutes and you keep in memory. I just was amazing. Wow, he remembered. I don't remember, but he remembers. This is so. This means, I think in his business, in his job, it's very important to tell you core or this concept of what the speaker wants to say, or he is, because sometimes when I hear translation, it's like like it's dead speech. It's like like a robot. It's like Google Translator, and it's make me really upset. Not because, first of all, when your English, your speech is alive and it's emotional. Emotional, I think it's very important, because when you people start going to bed, but this way, when more emotional, even you don't take care about speaker, but because you try to catch attention of all this audience.
Right.
Am I right?
Okay, let's ask, actually, I will comment on some of the points that Leo said in just a second, but let's ask our English-speaking audience, which was Eric in this case. How did you feel? Did you get the concept that we were talking about?
I did. I understood the translation. Obviously, I didn't understand the Russian.
Yeah. Really?
But your translation was clear, and Leo's right. The way that you speak is really lively, and there's an emotional content to it, and it's not just a monotone, flat, like a machine.
You mean I'm not interpreting like this always?
You're not interpreting like that always. And it makes it a lot easier to follow, especially over long stretches. And like Leo, I was amazed. What's the technical term for the gap between the speaking?
That's in simultaneous. The technical term is décollage.
Décollage.
That's a different.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. This is just the length of interpreting segments.
But yeah, I was pretty amazed at the length of it. You spoke at length, and then you interpreted it. That was really impressive.
Good.
Yeah.
Let me do a little bit of recap. So Eric and Leo said important points. A true professional will always look at things critically, not hypercritically, but critically. I definitely don't think that was an immaculate or perfect interpretation job. A-, B+. One, I was nervous. At the beginning, I was nervous. Maybe it's the camera effect. Maybe it's the new subject. Maybe it's the fact that I don't know, I've never actually interpreted with the camera this close up. I was a little nervous at the beginning. I got more nonchalant and chill and relaxed as time went on. So that was one. But yeah, Leo said a couple really good points. One, the spirit. Two, actually holding the audience's attention. Three, when he said, like, what's the word for spray in Russian? The ironic thing is that they actually call it spray as well right now. But there is no need to say this in English. And context, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about context, because I'm listening to these court interpreting videos right now, and they're basically like beating a dead horse about how if a person hems and haws and if they make a mistake, you must interpret this. In court, yes, because it's important, but not in a setting like this, right? Like, why? It's all about context, not the same rules apply anywhere and everywhere. And Leo also said an important thing. He felt like I was actually making his speech more fluent or better, and if you can get this sort of an unsolicited compliment, pat yourself on the shoulder. This is an interesting anecdote. I have a friend, he interpreted for Boris Yeltsin and other high-level elite politicians, and he told me this incident when another politician, a minister or something, walks up to him and says, "Виктор, мне кажется, ты меня лучше переводишь, чем я говорю. Victor, I think you're interpreting me better than I'm speaking." Victor is like, can't help it, I don't know. So anyway, if you can get that sort of a compliment, that's awesome, you're doing a good job. Again, in court, they're making a point not to do this. But in any other setting, pretty much in any other setting, why not? Because you're working for the speaker. And Leo also said an important thing, like he was nervous. I was nervous, but he was nervous. And I tried, to keep my poise the best you can. But an interpreter is that, what do you call it? Island of stability in a sea of chaos, because there can be a pandemonium, a confusion, people can be nervous, and if you have your stuff down, even if you're slightly nervous, if you appear poised and nonchalant and calm, then you can actually be that point of stability for people. Now, about length, interesting observation. First of all, I did not think it was going to get that technical. It wasn't super technical, but it was semi-technical. It's good that I had my notepad. I did not think that there would be as much factual information, and usually, honestly, just for the audience, I don't take notes a whole lot. I usually just rely on my mind. So it's always good to have notepad. It's never good to rely on it completely, because your main tool, 99%, is your mind. I don't know if I have any other clever points or pointers to say, but that's my own analysis. So I would say A- for this interpretation job, Vladimir. Good work. All right.
Good work.
Yeah.
All right.